you're told we've got a character for you, and then it's the executioner where is probably the most overdone character in wrestling. I think is the executioner. Who ended up coming up
Yeah.
with it, giving it to you, or did you propose it yourself?
Well, this is an interesting thing, and I can think back to this and say, man, what a great thing that had happened to me is that when I was it was early 1981, and we were doing a show in Allentown at the fair. So Vince McMahon Sr. was there that night, and he called me downstairs, and he goes, "You're a natural at this." And I said, "Wow." I said, "Man, I don't know how many guys have heard that in this business." And he said, "Are you able to travel?" And I said, thinking to myself real quick, I said, "Well, I think I've been traveling already, but I don't know what he means." And I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "Okay, well," and that was it. And then the next thing you know is that when I went up for the next TV taping, Monsoon says, "Hey, Ron," he goes, "get yourself royal blue mask, royal blue, like a Tarzan top and the long leotards." And so I did, and I came back. I guess probably maybe it took a couple of weeks for me to get it, but by the next TV taping, I brought him up, and they used me as the executioner. And I said, okay, this is good. They were putting me over on TV already. Matter of fact, I have one of those matches on my website. Matter of fact, and then they in Hamburg, I did a couple as the executioner. And then they started booking me as the executioner, and I was still working as Ron Shaw too. So it was a little bit back and forth. And so that started taking off. So I worked the entire 1981 as the executioner, pretty much. And later in the year, they said, "Hey, you're going to be going to," and I told this story on the last show I was on, and I made a mistake. They were going to send. I said that they were going to send me to Calgary, and I made a mistake. They were sending me out to California for Mike LaBelle, and and I said this was pretty sudden because they were telling me I was going to leave like next week, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh man," I said, is this a good thing or not? I got to keep in mind I'm still a little bit green, okay? And I decided to ask three people for their opinion. One was Kowalski, the other one was Bob Backlund, and the other one was SD Jones. Two of those guys said, "Well, maybe it's not a good idea, that you go out there." SD Jones says, "Well, you're not going to make a lot of money out there, but give Vince a call. He'll probably send you some money." And that already, here I am making great money, and I didn't want to lose that. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I won't go, maybe I will. So I had told somebody that, man, I'm not going to go. And then one night, Monsoon says, "Ron," he goes, "Look," he goes, "you may not make a lot of money, but that will come later." And then I decided to say yes again.
Hmm.
Then, giving it some more thought, I said, no, I'm not going to go. Now we're on a tour of upstate New York, and Arnold Skolin was the agent up there, and he says, "Hey, Ron," he goes, "give Vince a call. He wants to talk to you." So I give Vince a call in the afternoon before the last town that we were doing, and he says, "I understand that you don't want to go out to California." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Okay." He goes, "Make tonight your last night." And I already, pretty much knew that was coming. And I said, "Well, Vince, thank you anyway." I said, I hope I had worked out for you. And that was pretty much it. So that they let me go at that point. And but I went right to work months later with Kowalski doing his Bedlam from Boston, which eventually merged into Bruno and Dominic out in Pennsylvania area and so forth. So I was working for 2 years with Bruno, Dominic, and Kowalski those
Yeah.
2 years.
Well, you can't ask for much more as experience and growing, I suppose, at that point. Just going back to the Vinces, actually, this was a question I was going to save for later, but since you brought Senior up, interactions with Vince Senior and comparing him to Junior.
Oh yeah, well, I guess night and day. At that time, I didn't have that much interaction with either one of them, and I all I know is that Vince Senior was a very relaxed guy. I mean, really nice gentleman. And I remember one night when I was in Hamburg that I missed a payoff somewheres along the line, and I went in there into the office, back office there, and I always said, Mr. McMahon. I said, Mr. McMahon, I said, I didn't get paid for Middletown, Connecticut. He goes, oh, okay. And here he ends up whipping out, might have been $250 right out of his pocket and paid me right there on the spot, And I said, well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And, talking to Vince was very limited pretty much because, you mainly seen him only at TV. So, he was too busy. But, it was a couple times on phone calls more than anything else.
Yeah, and we brought it up before with Vince McMahon Jr. He obviously buys the company from his father. His father's there, here and there, and then he's not. He gets sick with cancer. He dies quite soon after selling the company to Vince. Do you remember, just from a talent point of view, how the company changed and when the company changed when it went from senior to junior?
Yeah, I mean, you can start seeing a little more of the show business aspect coming into that. Okay. It was getting a little bit more glitzier. I guess bringing in, like Cindy Lauper, stuff like that for the rock and wrestling type of atmosphere that it went on to be, and bringing on some of these major stars and WrestleMania stuff like that. But yeah, you could see a shift. It was like as if Vince had all these great ideas, but he just couldn't do them yet.
Hmm.
Those father passed because his father was old school, and when there were territories that you could go to, that was a thing. That was a great thing. They all worked, those owners of those territories, Gagne and Crockett and them and so forth. They all work together,
Hmm.
and I would like to have still seen it that way for all these years, because as I say, I'm as old school as I can get too.
Yeah,
I don't like the stuff of today. I've never watched it till after Hogan pretty much left. I haven't turned it on to watch it. Don't care what's going on.
I was going to say I could tell when you were giving me that answer you're just not a fan of the more cartoony aspects and everything. So what was Vince McMahon like as a boss then? Because it sounds like he was just absolutely ruthless.
Well, as I say, I didn't have to deal with him. Uh, a lot of the big names will have more stories than I can tell you. But as I say, I only started seeing him, and when we started going to Poughkeepsie, excuse me, and pretty much he just walk around and say a few words to people here and there, and I think probably pretty much he was just saying to the agents to speak to the talent for him, pretty much.
Hmm.
I mean, not unless it was Hogan or something that had to come up and talk to him. So I've never seen too much interaction.
No. Okay then. Well, between Junior taking over and WrestleMania, so I'm sort of focusing on maybe late '82 to '83. Do you remember a change in your travel schedule, in your bookings, and were you ever sent sort of further afield in the United States to battle in, let's say, California? Where the LaBelles had left California open, the battling with the AWA, or anywhere else where you were going into when you were basically going into enemy territory.
Well, 82, as I say, 82 and 83, I was with International Wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wasn't with Vince those 2 years. But when I came back in 84, uh, not that I was going to those places, but I mean, I was going to, they booked me in St. Louis. Um, they would book me in Florida. It's coming into, Tampa, Jacksonville. Um, and, and you could tell that those were like southern rings because they were like those cable wires and ropes and but again I can't think back and say, well, was there any heat between the promoters and so forth, but it was, the idea was is that he was starting to take the talent away out of all those guys, where they ended up folding, and giving them, paying them a lot more than what they were making back there. And I mean, who wouldn't leave,